Welcome into the Panthers.com video mailbag presented by CEENTA. Staff writer Max Henson here answering your questions ahead of Monday Night Football against the Buccaneers. We got our first question this week from Caro Panthers guy who says, after the failures of last week's game, are we going back to simplicity for our game planning? I think for any team in this situation, with the Panthers being 1-3 right now, the phrase back to basics kind of comes up. And that goes to your question about really simplifying things. And I think that means a couple things for this Panthers team in particular. On offense, running the ball. And that's something that has been a hallmark of this team really for the past few years under head coach Ron Rivera. He said he was crushed by the fact that that 100-yard rushing streak ended at 30 games against the Falcons down in Atlanta. They need to establish that ground game again. And it doesn't need to be for huge numbers. Of course, he wants to get over the century mark. But they have to run the ball enough to stay on schedule. And offensively, that means staying ahead of the sticks, giving yourself second and medium, third and manageable, not playing behind the sticks where you're looking at third and longs and allowing the opposing pass rush to really pin their ears back. And on the defensive side of the ball for Carolina, I think you look at communication. Have to communicate well, especially in the back end, and keep everything in front of you. That's something we saw against the Falcons. Too many big plays, too many explosive plays for Matt Ryan and Julio Jones, and that's crippling for a defense. If you can make an offense earn their way down the field and put together 12, 15 play drives, that's what you want. To try to force them to do something like that. That's difficult to do in this league. Of course, the Panthers hope that they can get some more 3-and-outs and get off the field quicker than that. The most important thing, can't allow those big plays. Those are backbreaking for a defense. We've got our next question from Quag65, who says, what has been up with the free safety situation? Has Trey lost his job, or do the coaches not have 100% trust in him yet? It's an interesting question, and right now the safety position is kind of something the Panthers are trying to figure out right now. Of course, Kurt Coleman is the guy who played 100% of the snaps against the Falcons. He's entrenched there. As far as the guy next to him, it kind of remains to be seen. Last week against the Falcons, we saw a couple different things. Colin Jones starting. He only played 10 snaps, though. Michael Griffin, the newly signed veteran, came in and played the majority of the snaps, over 50%. And then you saw Trey Boston, who was the starter of the first 3 games, work in there an obvious passing down. So the question remains going forward, what are we going to see from that safety position? And Carolina is going to work through this right now. I think Ron Rivera made it clear they want a bit of a veteran presence back there, something they've had in the past with Roman Harper, especially with how many young players they got in that secondary when you look at the cornerback spot. But I don't think we've heard the last from Trey Boston. This is a guy who's got a lot of athletic ability, a lot of potential. We thought this would be a breakout season for him. I still think he can turn things around and continue to earn the coach's trust and have a significant role on this team. We've got our last question from Dwayne, who says, it seems like they're missing passion. Big difference in how they act with each other on the sideline, too. An interesting comment that I wanted to talk about. And, I think when you look at the word passion, it kind of gets tied with winning. And what we saw last year with Carolina, the celebrations and really the confidence that you saw from this team on the sideline if you were watching on TV. I mean, that had a lot to do with winning games and scoring touchdowns and creating turnovers, and all that kind of manifests together to create what we saw. I think there's still a lot of passion on this team, but right now you're not seeing it in the same way because they haven't had those big plays offensively. They haven't had the same kind of success on defense, and that of course changes the tone on the sideline. But I still think the passion is there. And I'm going to use Kelvin Benjamin's word here and focus more on identity as far as what this team needs to find right now. And, he talked about the fact that last year's identity isn't the same as this year's. And he felt like maybe there were too many people who are continuing to look at the 2015 Panthers instead of focusing on finding out what this 2016 identity is. And he said until they find that and until they start moving forward, they're going to continue to have some problems. And, I think he's right. I think this team needs to find its identity quickly. They need to establish who they are, what makes them tick, and then we'll see some wins coming. Well, thanks for the questions this week, everybody. We'll do it again next time, right here on Panthers.com.